Welcome back to the specialized series on industrial artificial intelligence. In this episode, we explore hierarchical clustering. Imagine you walk into your room and your floor is covered with socks. Some are long, some are short, some are white, some are colorful. Without thinking too much, you start putting similar socks together, long socks in one pile, short socks in another, maybe colorful socks in a third pile. You just did clustering in your head. You grouped things that are similar without anyone telling you what the right groups are. In machine learning, clustering does the same thing but with data instead of socks. It automatically groups similar data points together when we do not have labels. Clustering is an unsupervised learning method, which means we do not give the algorithm labels like good customer or bad customer. Instead, we give it raw data points, and it tries to discover patterns by grouping similar points together. These groups are called clusters, and each cluster should contain points that are more similar to each other than to points in other clusters. We use clustering when we want to explore data, find hidden structure, or make sense of large, messy datasets without clear categories. There are many clustering methods, and one of the most popular is k-means, where you have to choose the number of clusters like 2 or 3 before you start. Hierarchical clustering is different. Instead of jumping straight to 3 clusters, it builds a whole hierarchy of clusters like a family tree for your data. At the bottom of this tree, every point starts alone, and as you move up, clusters keep merging until eventually everything is in one big cluster. This hierarchy is usually shown with a diagram called a dendrogram, which we will explore in detail soon. There are 2 main flavors of hierarchical clustering, agglomerative and divisive. Agglomerative is a bottom-up approach. We start with every point as its own tiny cluster, and then we repeatedly merge the 2 closest clusters until everything is joined. Divisive is the opposite, a top-down approach. We start with all points in one big cluster and then we repeatedly split clusters into smaller ones. In practice, agglomerative clustering is much more common, and that is what we will focus on in this tutorial. To understand agglomerative hierarchical clustering, let us use a tiny example with just 6 data points. Think of each point as a customer and the 2 axes as age and spending score, but we will keep things abstract so the picture is simple. We are going to run the algorithm by hand, step by step, so you can see exactly what it is doing. To decide which clusters to merge, the algorithm needs a way to measure how close 2 points are. The most common choice is Euclidean distance. That is just the straight line distance between 2 points, like using a ruler between 2 dots on paper. If you remember the Pythagorean theorem from school, that is exactly what Euclidean distance is using under the hood. For now, you can simply think, shorter line between 2 points means smaller distance, and that means the points are more similar. Now let us run agglomerative clustering on our 6 points. Step 1, initially each point is its own cluster, so we have 6 clusters, A, B, C, D, E, and F. Step 2, we compute distances between all pairs of points and find the 2 that are closest. Those 2 become our first merged cluster. Step 3, then we treat that merged pair as a single cluster, recompute distances between clusters and again merge the closest pair of clusters. We repeat this process, measure distances, merge the closest clusters, until everything has been combined into one big cluster. So far we have talked about distances between points. But once we start merging points into clusters, we also need a way to measure the distance between clusters. This is where linkage methods come in. 3 common ones are single linkage, complete linkage, and average linkage. In single linkage, the distance between 2 clusters is the distance between the closest pair of points, 1 from each cluster. This can create stringy clusters, because even one close pair can connect 2 groups. In complete linkage, the distance between clusters is based on the farthest pair of points between them. This tends to form more compact, tight clusters. Average linkage takes the average distance over all pairs of points in the 2 clusters, which usually gives results somewhere between single and complete. Every time we merge clusters, we can record that merge in a dendrogram, a tree-like diagram that shows how clusters are formed. Along the bottom we place our individual points A, B, C, D, E, and F. Whenever two clusters merge, we draw a horizontal line connecting them at a height that reflects the distance at which they were joined. Low merges mean clusters were very similar. High merges mean they were more different when they finally got combined. One of the coolest things about hierarchical clustering is that you can choose the number of clusters after you build the dendrogram. To do this, we draw a horizontal cut across the dendrogram at some height. Each time the cut crosses a vertical branch, that branch corresponds to a cluster. Cut near the bottom and you get many small clusters. Cut higher up and you get fewer, larger clusters. A common trick is to look for a big vertical gap in the dendrogram and cut just below it, where clusters were still relatively similar. Hierarchical clustering is not just a toy example, it is used in many real applications. In marketing, it can help segment customers into groups based on behavior like bargain hunters, loyal regulars, and big spenders. In biology, it is common to cluster gene expression data, where each cluster might correspond to genes that behave similarly across conditions. It is also used to group similar documents or news articles, so related topics end up near each other in the dendrogram. Let us quickly recap what we have learned. Clustering is about grouping similar data points when we do not have labels. Hierarchical clustering builds a whole tree of nested clusters, using either a bottom-up agglomerative approach or a top-down divisive approach. Agglomerative clustering starts with each point as its own cluster and repeatedly merges the closest clusters, using a distance metric like Euclidean distance and a linkage method such as single, complete, or average. The dendrogram records all these merges and lets us choose the number of clusters later by cutting it at different heights. The future of industry is intelligent. Let's build it together. Thank you for watching.